Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. You look really good, but I thought this was just voices.
Oh my goodness, it is.
Okay.
And I usually don't hit record until we start the roll, and so I'll just
Yeah.
this out because something's going on with my Zoom account where now every time I think it's this new software platform I'm moving to, and I've taken the auto record off, but it still keeps. I will stop it in a meeting, and then it'll start recording again. So Zoom really wants to record, no matter what I
That's
look like.
so classic. You're like,
Yeah,
great. Now
right.
I have to take time out of my day to figure out what the hell you changed. It's so
Exactly.
irritating.
It's so irritating. So is the world of technology, right? But so the only thing I ever use video for really, because primarily just because I don't know how to edit it and um
Right.
is to just I'll take like a little clip sometimes and do that as a
Yeah.
little what do they call it? Soundbite. But for the most
hmm
part, I have to give props
I'm
to.
learning so much. This is my first.
Well, I'm so excited, and I have to give
My
props
first.
to Becky because when I was thinking about doing this, Amy encouraged me, Becky encouraged me, all these people encouraged me to do this, but I was just like, I don't know if I have the time. I don't know if I can figure out like add another thing
Right.
to my plate. So I had a call with Becky to just say, how much time does this take and what do you do? And she gave me her whole process that I'm following. And I
Oh,
know
fun.
she's way more efficient than I am at it, like way
That
more.
woman is on fire. You're like, oh my God. I've got
Yeah.
like one client at this point.
Yeah, no, for sure. Me too. And so I use kind of her process. And so she's the one that helped me, like, you load it into here and then you import it. And that
Oh,
makes
cool.
she really helped me out. So, but I'm still a rookie, but I'm having so much fun with this.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like I mean, I just wanna do, like, a whimsy one where it's just
That
like, "Okay, here's today's silliness that will
Yes,
make you
I
feel
love
lighter."
it. I love it when I just took a quick look at the form that you put in and it reminded me of, where your focus point is and all your amazing background. And see, I didn't really know much of your background, but just that. So I did a meditation earlier today with one of my teachers, Roger Gabriel, and one of the things that he always taught when he was training me is enlightenment is about lightening up, right?
Lighten up.
Lighten
That's
up.
right.
I mean, we just with all these types of things, it can be so serious. And so I love the whimsy element. So yeah, I want to play off that. So what I'll probably do just for time's sake, what I usually do, well, I'll try reading. So usually I record a little intro after for people so that I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
to, try to read perfectly and I can just put it in my own words. So I can
Yeah.
do that, but I'll do a short intro of how we know each other. And then I'll ask you what well-being tip you want to share with the listeners. And you just go from whatever comes up, just go for it. And then we'll just go down a path. And these things, they always evolve. And the coolest thing about them all, in fact, the one that released this morning, it's this young man who has cerebral palsy. And I was thrown into this in this podcasting. It's like a podcasting event. Amy told
Uh-oh.
basically matched blind date with people. And the
Ooh.
the first time I did that, I actually wasn't lined up with him. And then the next time we did some sort of follow-up thing, and somehow, I don't know, I think a lot of people, I hate to say this, but we're avoiding him. And I just felt called to him. And so I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
and and our conversation brought me so much light and so much inspiration. And
Right.
it was fun. There was so much whimsy in it, like to your point. So I'm just
Yeah.
anyway, if nothing else comes out of these podcasts other than this experience and the growth it's providing for me, it'll be worth it.
Awesome. See, that's the right attitude. Like, don't be attached to the outcome. Just go, we're having some fun. If this is a complete blowout, we'll just start over.
Yeah, we can always re-record, right? And
Like,
that the
that's
funny
right.
thing is, I usually
Yeah.
don't edit right away. So this will be something that the file will sit there and then I'll come back and edit it as I've got a whole stack of them to do. And then it's like when I hear it, I'm like, oh, I was supposed to listen to that today because I needed her lesson. And energetically, the world needs it right now. So I really,
Yeah, yeah.
one thing I struggle with, and just I'm sharing this because so you'll know kind of how and when I publish these things, is people are usually on a really specific schedule. I kind of wait and feel the energetics of what's going on and then go with my intuition as I pop things in. I'm like, oh, this is what's going on.
Right.
And so
That's
it's much,
exactly right.
yeah, well, it's the way the world is, right? It changes every damn day.
No, I know. You have to be open, open to out. Uh-oh, did we lose you? Where'd you go?
Oh, am I freezing? I hope not.
No, something just happened. It just like
Okay.
I have this anyway. I won't tell you this is what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to do this.
No worries.
I
No
have this
worries.
external monitor and I got this USB, like I got a connector so that I could also connect my wireless mouse and stuff. And it just doesn't connect well. It's a piece of cheapware.
Oh,
Anyway,
gotcha. Cool. Well, we'll get started here. I don't have to hit record because it's already recording, but what I am gonna because it wants to do things the way it wants to do. And let me just see. I'm just gonna make sure I got I want to write down the time so that when I go back to edit, I can jump to the
okay.
the goodness. Not that this isn't good, but
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
oh wow, that takes me back. Mm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will hit record as if we hadn't been recording yet right now. So,
Okay.
so I'm so excited to be back with you at Chakras and Chardonnay today and introduce my guest today, which is Cathy Lloyd. And so Cathy and I were connected earlier this year as we both courageously stepped into something we knew nothing about at the time, which was positive intelligence coaching program. And so we kind of explored a lot of things that we probably didn't step into it thinking we were going to explore in terms of our saboteurs and all sorts of things. But what came out of it is a connection with a beautiful human who has a ton of experience and expertise. And I'm just excited to bring her to you today. So thank you so much, Cathy, for joining me today.
Thanks, Maria. I'm thrilled to be here. How are you?
I'm
Let's go.
great. I'm doing great. So will you share a little bit for our listeners, your background, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some direct tips we can drop on based on that experience and background.
Right. So let's see, my background. So I have always fallen into jobs and then been promoted against my will. So because I never believe that I'm good enough because I'm a perfectionist. And so a lot of the development of my career has been one of yes, I do have it in me, and the belief of others that I have it in me, and then this sort of idea of leveraging strengths
Mhm.
to uh, in several areas. One of them is if you do the Via character, um, I can't remember. There's a link for it, but it's my favorite one because
Okay.
my number one strength in the Via Institute um, characteristics is humor.
Mm.
And I grew up in a family where, I mean, literally, we watch television together and make fun of what's going on. So, in some cases, in other cases, we're all crying and it's terrible. Like it hits you the way it's supposed to hit you. But most of the
Mhm.
time, it's sort of this light approach. And I think some of that came out of the fact that I've been a depressed person since probably my adolescence, and so this fighting of the darkness, this being dragged down by assumptions that I'm making about the world, and feeling like I'm lost, I'm alone, I nobody gets me kind of thing,
Mhm.
as an introvert. So when I started my career, it was always like, I don't, I'm sorry, I have no experience in this. I don't know what I'm doing. And then just figuring it out and using
Mhm.
creativity to figure it out. And so my journey to people leadership really happened also against my will, where I was, in charge of teams of people. And I realized that I couldn't do it for them. I needed them to be, and so because I had already always been attracted to inspirational leaders,
Mhm.
people who made it fun, people who didn't take it so seriously, but kind of opened up that space so that I could be creative and
Mm.
free. That's where I went when I became a people manager. And so I suddenly realized that that was weird in my industry in higher education, like that a lot of people could not let go of their control, and they they thus didn't unlock the potential and the creativity of the people they were working with. So that was the strength that led me to these different roles, et cetera, or just wanting to experience more and learn more. And so over the course of my career, I was known for things like silly gifts that would make people laugh. So for example, we had a like most valuable player, I guess,
Mhm.
award. And we used it at Harvard, we used a pile of rocks because nothing says thank you like a pile of rocks. And
This was at
and
Harvard.
and at Berkeley, I used a little Jerry Garcia gnome. It was like the gnome for Berkeley had like a tie dye. I was saying peace, of it, and so it was that because really what those moments are about are acknowledgement and being seen for the people who are getting those awards. And so people like really got excited about that. And so then I sort of got, I was a project manager. I got more into change management and changing people's belief systems. And I work in an industry right now that's going through a lot of change.
Mhm.
Um, and so then I started working with people who are in change management. And then we started, because we were in such a huge amount of change, they brought in the Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute. And I was like, yes, finally, these are my people. I see these people. Um, and so that got me more in, as I was thinking about the later part of my career, like in my 60s, it was really about giving back, about mentorship, about coaching, and helping people through that pain of growth, of growing into somebody who is a leader, not just somebody who's controlling, but somebody who is opening up the possibilities and making the impossible happen. And so that was sort of like I've always been in the place where I'm a change agent and things are happening. And so, Whimsy at work came out of this idea that we take ourselves too bloody seriously a lot of the time, and our egos and our judgment of others get in the way of possibilities and being open to different ideas and not opening. So one of the things that I love to do is sort of do exercises where people open up their creativity,
Mm.
and get out of that rut of seeing things, because I get into situations a lot where people are needing to, I see myself this way, and it's based on some version of their truth. But like the more they work with other people, the more they realize, as I did, that it's sort of the marketplace of ideas. And if it's a
Mm.
safe place to bring up ideas, you get better ideas and people get inspired, and they actually work really hard if they believe, like Ted Lasso, right?
Mhm.
So, and Ted Lasso, by the way, is an incredible bit of whimsy. I mean, every little thing that happens in there is unexpected and tiny. Things like those little biscuits he cooks, for her. It's just this massive amount of like tiny whimsies that build up to a positive um, mindset, an open mindset, a creative mindset. Um,
I love
and
that. Oh my goodness. I mean, there's so much there that I think will resonate with so many. I mean, just as you're stepping into sharing that, I mean, I immediately went back to being 22 years old, fresh out of college, being recruited to a Fortune 500, being thrown into this wolf pit, and then getting promoted right away by no work of mine really yet. but just by the way things happen and just dropping into that, holy crap, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
These people are all 20 to 30 to 40 years my senior that I'm leading. They're not going
Hmm.
to take me for seriously.
Exactly. Yeah.
So tapping into that creativity to get through that and to get out of the head, which you did naturally, and I ended up doing too in that circumstance. That's tapping into that sacral chakra, that place of our
Mhm.
creativity. And I love that you started with that, because what I find is, a lot of people don't think of themselves as creative beings, but we are all
Mhm.
infinitely creative. And
We
the
all
thing,
started that way for sure.
right? And the thing is, oftentimes what I found in my own life is when I tap into it, it's because it was a necessity. I was in some sort of
Hmm. Hmm.
problem or struggle and had to figure out another way. Okay, well, this doesn't work. What else can we do? So
Right.
trying to come up with solutions. So it's in that problem solving that we become really creative. And I don't think people,
Mhm.
when they hear the word creativity, they think of, painting a beautiful landscape picture, right? Not necessarily, I just created a new solution for a problem that we thought was unsolvable. So
That's right.
I love that. And I
Well,
think
and
so many people can relate to that.
there are these exercises you could do. I was telling somebody the other day to open up people's creativity.
Mm.
So one of the things that I'll do is like take an object. Let's say it's a tennis ball,
Okay.
and you play a game where everybody has to say what it is. If you pass, you're out.
Hmm.
And the first person, only one person can say it's a tennis ball.
Okay.
Everybody after that has to say, it's a sticky wad of gum, or it's a apple, it's an orange, it's a whatever. And unlocking that, you just see people light up when they're doing that kind of thing. And I really, I think we need more of that, because then we see each other and we stop like sticking with our biases and things. It's like you just have to break out of that rut. How do you do it? You do it with whimsy and play.
Mm. That's an awesome example. Wow. I remember doing something like that in some sort of team building workshop, but
Hmm.
um, keep telling us a little bit more about this whimsy. Like, how do we?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, no matter what line of work you're in, we tend to get really in our heads, really intellectualized, and
Hmm.
really then oftentimes get pulled by our ego, by our saboteurs, and
Hmm.
so darn serious to the point where it's like it gets just so tension filled because of the seriousness. And so to bring in this play element is so huge, especially as a leader, to be the one setting the tone, the energetic tone for the rest of the group, whether you're a leader in the family, a leader in your church, a leader in community, or a leader in the workplace. Being able to free people up and liberate them to have fun by being an example is huge. So give us some more tips on how we can do that within our lives.
So, it's sort of interesting because it kind of ties into the positive discipline, the positive intelligence program, in the sense that people are starting to recognize that it's little habits that
Hmm.
are the things that remap your brain, so that so as a depressed person, this becomes a huge benefit to me. So, it's the glass half empty, is the glass half full. And so you start to, I have this thing called a whimsy walk. And the whimsy walk says, I'm walking along and I find some piece of whimsy. There's always something. I go on a walk, there's a dog in a funny sweater, there's, somebody, and I will tend to walk with my heart-shaped glasses on, because then I'm just walking and everyone's smiling at me. It's the easiest thing in the world. You're like, that cost $20 and now I have heart-shaped glasses and I'm delivering joy out, which sort of bolsters gratitude, helps people get out of like this sort of negative mindset. And then, the other thing I'll tell my clients to do is sort of, get back in touch with I mean, I hate to say it, your inner child, because it seems like such um, a cliche, but it's really about sort of that moment in life where you were without judgment. And
Mm.
so I will send people to go and sit one of my favorite things to do is go and sit at a playground and watch toddlers try to walk. It's hilarious. And it reminds you in that moment that, ah, I can fall on my ass a lot and still get up and not have this feeling of just, oh, well, I'm never going to walk. Or I could, that's not how children think. They just think, what's the next thing I can learn? I'll put this in my mouth. That was dog poop. That was a bad idea. Like those kinds of things. You're just like, wow. So those are the kinds of things. It's a habit of mind. It's a mind of going, this is really bad. I mean, a recent example for me was I rented a house for 2 weeks to be with my family for my 60th birthday, and everything went wrong.
Well,
It
happy
rained every
birthday,
day.
by the way.
Well, thank you. I'm so old. Anyway, it rained every day. And it sorry. And then we were all stuck inside. And then about halfway through, might have been like the day after my birthday, there was a big COVID thing. We all got COVID. And I realized that, like, if I were a certain type of person, I would think, oh, everything's ruined. I had a terrible experience, but I didn't. And I didn't because there were little magical moments that I could find. There was one point where my son was playing with his cousin on this stupid, like, game, and they were giggling. And I just thought, I'm going to be present in that moment with them giggling. And isn't that joyful? And isn't it joyful to, it's like, it's a way that you tune your mind to what is and what is positive. It's, you're getting rid of these expectations that it's going to be my 60th birthday and we're going to do karaoke. We did do karaoke, by the way. And karaoke is another one. It's like, if you're too good, they don't want you up there. They're like, no, you need to go up. We want to see you struggle. And then we're going to clap and cheer because you were brave.
Right.
And
God,
so those
karaoke
kinds of
got us
things.
through part of COVID too. I mean, for the initial part of the pandemic, I remember doing, in fact, I think it was a neighbor of mine that got me, or a friend of mine that got me into it. But I remember being on a Zoom call or to these Zoom karaoke's, right? And then traveling cross country doing karaoke in the car is how we passed time rather than kids being on video games. And it was such an amazing, I mean, there was plenty of that too, believe me. If you're driving from California to Minnesota, you're going to have all kinds of things to keep their attention. But I love this small magical moments, this small pieces of whimsy for the habit building, because as we look at, just to your point of the rewiring the brain, we're not going to remove that circuitry that's in there that has those past experiences, past traumas, past ways of being, past habits that have created. But what we can do is, through all these little things you're saying, create new circuitry that becomes so strong that it's much larger than that old. So that we can just automatically then tap into that. So it's that habit forming. And I know with some of the work that I do, the breath work, etc., I think it's about a 6-week window from a lot of the data I looked at to where if you're doing a daily practice, you can start rewiring your brain.
That's really what positive intelligence and positive psychology is saying right now. And I actually watched this really interesting, I think it was Simon Sinek, and he was talking about how, how do you know, is there an event, a moment, a metric where you're in love? And he said, you don't, because it's 1,000 small moments that build to this feeling of trust and love and security. And so the same is true for your self perception and other things. It's built of little tiny joys, if you will. Happiness is built by tiny moments of joy, and that's what the awareness is, right? You're drinking your wine and you're really tasting it, and you're in that moment, and it's just a joy,
Absolutely.
So.
Well, speaking of wine, let's pivot this conversation then and talk about wine. Tell me about your favorite type of wine.
I, first of all, that is a very hard question for somebody like me to answer because I have a lot of loves and I like blends. And so I was just like, oh my God, how am I going to limit it down to one? And so I would say that, among the white varietal or
Mhm.
the white wines, I love like a Sauvignon Blanc that has little surprises. And I mean, not shockingly, this is not a surprise, like these little surprises of lots of different flavors. So
Mhm.
I do love that. I love a French Chardonnay. I like it to be light and fruity, but without fizz and without oak. So I'm sorry about the Chardonnay. I, I thought, well, I'll give her the French Chardonnay. I'll give you that. But
No, it's
California,
so you know what the funny thing is, I love that. Um, I think, you know, with the name of this podcast, it actually really plays into a lot of what you're bringing in today, which is whimsy. The thought that,
yeah,
we can really, I mentioned earlier when we were chatting offline that one of my favorite teachers and trainers, Roger Gabriel, meditation teacher and the chief meditation officer at Chopra, um, he will always say, enlightenment is about lightening up.
that's right.
And what I found in my journey to step into some of these things is I had a hard time finding the right teachers that resonated initially because
Right.
I couldn't really, weren't living the same in my judgmental perception experience that I was in my chaotic world at the time. And I just needed some lightness and some fun to pull me in and then to get deeper. And so the chakras and Chardonnay, well, it just sounds fun and it makes you smile. And it's it's really partially to poke fun at the fact that we don't have to be so serious all the time. We can look at this through the lens of a playful environment. And I actually, Chardonnay, I really don't drink a lot of it. I think
No,
it's,
I drink it. It's just French
yeah, yeah. Well, and there's whole,
because it has to be light.
well, there's
And
so,
I do drink reds though, but my reds are very like, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre kind of blend. Red blends are fascinating to
oh,
me.
okay, GSM. Well, we might have to really talk more about the GSM then, because it's absolutely one of my favorites. And I think the thing that you started out with saying that there's so many different options, right? There's so many different flavors to explore and experience. And how do you, in your exploration of wine, what's your favorite part about it? Just take me through you exploring a glass of wine through the whim
Well,
lens,
through the
through the
whimsy
through
lens,
the
you're
heart
like, oh,
glasses lens.
a heart glass of lens. So I would say I really let's see, when I'm drinking wine, I'm old, so I can only have like one glass at a time before like I've ruined my next day. So,
100%.
it's really about kind of a combination of flavors. And I feel this way about my food too. It's
Mm,
when there's an unexpected or kind of edge where you're like, oh, that's fascinating. Look at that. This is or delight on the palate.
mm,
I was gonna tell you, so I do a lot of wine tasting. We'll go up to Navarro, for example, which I love, and have like different ages and and it kind of speaks to you in a voice,
mhm.
And so what happens is, it's gotten to the point where if I go to a conference, for example, and I have their house wine, I'm like, here, take my like I don't no, no, because it's not vibrant enough. It's not alive enough. And so I think about whimsy being the same kind of thing. It's not if there's no delight. My stepmother gave me this book called The Book of Delights, by this gentleman. I was looking to see if I had it here. And the what the story is that he started on one birthday and ended on a next birthday. And every day he wrote down in his journal delights. So what delighted me today? What
Mm,
was and he's published it. So it's like his journal of every day of delights. And he really reinforces that idea that delights are, you know, in the moment. Like, you have to be there in the moment and be aware and be, and so that's what wine tasting really is to me. It's just, is this different from this one? How so? How did I express it through when it came in through my nose?
Mm.
And then on this, when you're sipping and it's coming up the back, and it's just, it's magical. It's delightful. I love it.
It is. Wow, that is so beautiful. There's so many pieces of wisdom that you just dropped with our listeners, and I'm so appreciative. And I just want to kind of circle back through them. In particular, just encouraging people to take that moment each day to just, how can I add a little whimsy? Can I take a walk and look for the whimsy? I think that's a great suggestion. Is it the delight in the palate, with the wine or the food or whatever it is? Wow, just so much opportunity to bring joy in,
Yeah.
to pull us out of habits, patterns, story, all the stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I love that. Any final words before we say goodbye to listeners?
I would say, don't wait. You're gonna have to edit this out, because I mean,
No worries. Take
if
time.
you have, if you are thinking whimsically, you are in that whimsy landscape. You're in a learning space, and you're open to outcome, and you are present in that moment, not worrying about the mind chatter in your head, and keep sticking with that. It's a habit. You just build it, and then it becomes almost impossible for you to be unbalanced, because you kind of take a step back and are in that moment and go, okay, this is actually what's happening, and uh this is getting a little ridiculous. I always say, and now this is happening.
And now
Okay, this is reality. This is happening now. How do I respond? And hopefully you're doing it from your sage and your wisdom versus uh your judger.
I love that. I love that. The next time shit hits the fan, so to speak, and now this is happening.
That's
I love it. Thank you.
Isn't that interesting?
Isn't that interesting? Oh, I love it. I love the whimsy. I love the fun. And let's go wine tasting.
Yes, please.
All right.
Anytime.
Thank you so much, Cathy.
Thanks, Maria. Love you.
Likewise. All right. So 33. I'm just going to make a note here where to stop the record, or where to stop the editing. That was so much fun. Oh my God, I love it.
Really? I just felt like I was blathering.
No. Honestly, those are the ones that are the most impactful for people, I feel like, because everything that you talked about, I would have never thought, Cathy, that you struggled with depression. Never. I would have never thought that if someone looks at your bio, they're not going to think, oh, she just was thrown into it and was feeling she wasn't worthy. I mean,
right.
These are
It looks like I had a plan, which I absolutely didn't.
And it was so, when you said that, I was like, oh God, that's amazing. Cause that's literally my career, was being pulled here, there, the other, and just saying like, okay, I'll go. Okay, I'll try that. With the exception of my nervous breakdown when I said, see ya.
Gotta go.
Yeah. But it was always the universe pulling me out and pushing me forward, telling me it's time, whether through a layoff or through being fired. It was always because I didn't believe necessarily that truly in myself, that I was ready to move to the next thing.
No, and that's very female, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
we're like,
So
no, I couldn't possibly be ready. And all the men are like, I'm ready. I have like this much knowledge. I'm gonna go.
Exactly. And I think, but I think it's going to resonate with so many, and just to look at that perception. I love the whimsy walk. All the things that you described are so amazing. And
yes, I have a whimsy workbook that I'm working on, and it has that visualization of the wings, and then I have the whimsy walk, and then I have a couple other the going and watching children play.
Yes.
How do you get back to that person?
Toddler. Totally. I love this, and the glasses, the fact that you They're literally, I think in my cart today, I have this, I'm starting this program with court-appointed special advocates, so CASA.
Oh, fantastic.
The two local programs, or the two counties here, Fresno and Madera. On Friday, it's our first session, and we're doing for about the next couple of months. We're gonna meet on their payday Friday every other week, and I'm taking them through this. It's Empower Your Health course, so it's based on Ayurveda. So it's a lot of the Ayurvedic teachings, but also pulls in a lot of mental wellness, some of the positive intelligence stuff, some of the stuff from the aiming clinic. But I literally, if I have my cart here, I literally have in my cart. The shitty thing is I don't think I ordered it in time because I was trying to figure out which one was the right one. But I was shopping sunglasses because when I say, after their first session, anytime I teach them introductory, after that, I say, now your homework is basically look at your life between now and the next time we meet through the lens of Ayurveda. And so I'm like, one day I was like, I need to get lenses. I need to give them something that they'll,
like rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, so that they'll take with them. And these are my Ayurveda glasses, so that I can ask them, well, did you look through your glasses and how did life look then? And so I have them in my cart, and they're heart shaped too. And I'm like, shit, when you said that, I'm like, I don't think I ordered them last night at like 11 o'clock when I was getting
Mine were supplied to me by the universe at Nordstrom Rack of all places. Like I was walking by and they were like, these are $20. And they were like Kate Spade, like, and I was like, these are mine. And so I wear them all the time.
Oh, I love
and
it.
every time I wear them, people are like, it's like wearing a funny t-shirt or something. People are
Right.
like, that's awesome. But
Right.
like,
That's
just
why
when
I usually have some kind of crazy earrings because it'll start conversations with people. And it's just fun. Like you can be business and a little fun, right? So
yeah, I have to send you the link to the Book of Delights. It's really interesting.
Link. And oh my gosh, like everything you say about wine tasting is literally the beauty of how I approach it and why I created this mindfulness process to it. So we seriously need to go wine tasting. So let's make sure we make that happen.
Yes. Yeah, like I love Navarro, but my other favorite is like Randall Graham, and he's the Rhone Ranger down in Paso.
I haven't heard that name in so long.
He is about as whimsical as it gets. Like his wine bottles have
What's the name again?
I
know the Rhone Ranger. I've heard
Bonnie Doon Vineyards is what he started.
Yes,
and the Bonnie Doon has this. He has his word. There's like the cigar volant, and it's like a little spaceship. And I was just like, this is everything. So I have like pictures of me at their reopening party because he shifted off. He gets bored and then he quits. And does something new. He's constantly reinventing himself. So now he has a wine called The Language of Yes.
Oh, I love it.
I know. And he wrote this hilarious book. Randall Graham is his name, RANDALL. I think it's GRAHM. But anyway, he's my hero.
I will
he's
check
my whimsical hero. Like we went to their wine opening and they had a little tiny spaceship, like a little metal spaceship, and like little hats you could put on. I was like, I'm all over this. And I got in there, and because everybody was standing around, and there was like a big basket of hats and stuff, and I was like, these people don't have any whimsy. So
right. I love it because there's so much. It can be so pretentious, and that's part of what my intention is with the podcast too. It's for people who are kind of think that that's what wine tasting is. You don't have to taste what they're tasting or smell.
Like why does fear of judgment come in, especially when you know that people have different palates? So whenever I advise people on wine, I'm like, you taste, you evolve, and you learn what your palate is, right?
Exactly. And you're not going to smell lychee nut if you've never smelled a damn lychee nut before.
That's exactly right. Try going and trying a lychee nut while you're at it.
So
and the different types of peaches,
right? There's Tank Winery in Sonoma. You would love them. They are very every label's a blend. And every label is different, unique. They have, I mean, some of their labels, I think the last one in my shipment that I just got, I pulled it out and it said, fuck yeah. And it was like, I'm like, so anyway, it's a fun one. But, and so one thing I'll mention too, before I let you go is, so social media and all that stuff, I'm doing my best, right? It's just, it's like fish out of water, right? I just hired someone. Actually, I need to pay her today. We just are contracting to do, she's going to take over all the social media and stuff. And she has a lot of winery clients in the Santa Barbara, all the way up the coast area.
Oh, that's good. Whatever.
Yeah. And so she's going to really, I think she's going to really help this podcast grow and help the services grow. And then I'll also hopefully be doing some work over there. So I will let you know when I'm over.
Be a busy woman.
I know you're north, but there's so many different places we could go and meet. So we will definitely have to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of Paso, and that's like GSM Central. And then,
oh my God.
I like,
so I'm gonna, when I come back, what I usually do is
I will go to Sonoma. I lived there for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. In
What's
Santa
your
Rosa.
GSM? I should have asked you on, well, we still are. What's your favorite GSM?
I like Eberly, like those are good. And I love, of course, Bonnie Doon. Just because, and this is sort of interesting with the terroir, I love people who are like, and one of the reasons Randall Graham switches around so much is because he believes in this idea that there's a perfect blend, or it's like you marry the year with the harvest, and and so you're not attached to the outcome. You are looking, so like that part of it is what I adore. It's really like, we're going to go with what we've got, and we'll all taste different things, and we'll agree that this is the one. There's no formula.
Yeah.
And the idea of like, I'm going to have the same wine over and over again, it's always going to taste the same, is just silly. Like I can't, if it was the same every day, I would lose my mind.
Right.
I mean, there's certain ones where you're like, all right, I know that this is the profile of what we're going to get. It's going to be complex. It's going to have great mouthfeel. It's going to, shoot off different flavors. But I got to tell you, when I lost my sense of smell with COVID, I thought it was like, I was like, life isn't worth living. Like I went and had wasabi, and like what I was expecting was just flat. And I was like, why would you eat? Why would you drink?
Yeah, no, I know. I actually, remember going to pour in the tasting room, where I educate in a little boutique winery a couple times a month. And I remember going, and I'm like, I'm not going to be smelling,
This is right. This has ruined my life. My life is ruined.
Really? I'm just like, what do you mean? But so it's such an interesting thing how we can retrain our, because it's all sense memory, right? We can retrain ourselves. And then it became much more, I don't know about you with your COVID, but with me, it became, it was like starting fresh. So it's like my palate and my sensitivity became even more subtle, right? To where I could pick up, I found it is actually a really kind of nice after the fact, not when I was going through it, but after the fact, hindsight, I'm like, oh, that was a really nice kind of reset for the system. So,
well, to experience life without it, even for a brief period of time, makes it that much more precious, and you focus on it so much more, because you're like, this is a gift that I have to taste all this stuff, and if I lose it, I would be poorer for it. So
amen. Awesome. Oh, it was so great to connect with you like this.
Yeah, it was. I want to do you now so that I can hear all about. I mean, you tell me. I know some of it, but yeah. And any.
Yeah. So and before I forget, episode I think is it 2? 2 or 3 is really a fun one to listen to, because I talk about blends and the creativity of the winemaker and why they do it. And we go, it's literally all to your point. So this will be a good one to kind of follow up on that and highlight.
Oh, I have to see it.
I'm going to highlight the GSM for sure on this episode. In fact, I've been wanting to, I have a GSM in my fridge from the winery that I pour at, which is literally phenomenal. and it's really small release, just for a wine club. And it's anyway, it's amazing. But my story was, so I started out, got a business degree, and then was recruited out of college into a tech company, Harris Corporation. It was an IT company that did a lot of military, a lot of behind the scenes kind of stuff. And then from there, I just was pulled from one place kind of to the other, and ended up, I moved back. I was in San Diego for a couple of years, moved back to the Valley. I'm originally from Minnesota, so I'm a Midwest girl, but had been in California for most of my life, and moved with my parents when I was about, I think, 9 or so. And so since then, and then we moved to the Bay Area. So we were in Concord, Walnut Creek area, and then moved here. So I went to junior high and high school in Madera, went to Fresno State. Didn't know what the hell I wanted to do, but I knew that it was ingrained in me. You get a degree, you get a job, you work hard, you pay your bills, you keep your credit score high, you get married, you do all the things, right? So I did all the things, and it was just, I was always thrown to the wolves. So like that job that I mentioned at the beginning, I wasn't supposed to be promoted to be a manager like overnight I was supposed to get like a year of training, all kinds of different stuff, but just the way the world works, it's like, nope, here you go.
No, we have a vacancy, and you seem like the warm body. Yeah, you'll figure it out.
In fact, they used to call me Junior Mint was my nickname. And I got to reach out to one of the guys I'm still connected with on LinkedIn to say, hey, Junior Mint says hi. Anyway, so then when I came back here, I went back to work for a software company I had interned with when I was in college, and was with them for probably about 10 years. And then, so a lot of small businesses. And then 10 years ago, actually, this is just the anniversary, I just had a full stop. I mean, I was burning the candle at both ends. I had 3 deaths in a 1-year period, one of which was my father, who had Parkinson's. And so that's when he had early onset. So I actually moved back from San Diego when he was diagnosed. And so, which is the best decision I ever made. And then I ended up getting married here. So that's why I ended up staying here. Or I'd be out of this heat.
Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, so I was so busy caring. Literally, I took care of him towards the end, but also caring for the survivors, caring for my mom, caring for my mother-in-law, who my father-in-law passed the year after, planning, helping all the funerals I was involved in planning or running. And it's just, I never grieved for the first loss, which was my father. And he was my mentor. He was my, literally my everything. I mean, we were very, very close, still are very close, but it was such a big loss that I was so busy spinning plates, traveling all over the US, so at that point I was selling and training software for civil support teams for military. So, I'd be in DC or wherever, 2 kids that I'm managing, my husband wasn't helping as much as he should, all the things. And so I'm just, trying
because you're super competent. So they're all like, "Oh, she's got it. It's fine." You're like, "No, I don't. I just
exactly.
I'm making it look easy, but it's not."
So I spun all the plates, and then it was after that third we moved homes, during the we had built our dream home here at the market, and then sold it here. So it took a huge loss, and at the time, everybody was doing short sales and stuff like that, but I was raised to keep my credit score high, do the right thing, all the stuff. And so we just let ourselves dry, savings and everything to get out of that, to downsize, move to a smaller place so that we could be in between my mom and mother-in-law, who were both widowed, and so that we wouldn't be house broke at the time either. And right after, so the worst, like the worst time in terms of the time that you're gonna say sayonara to your career. But I just remember we got the keys, and this was a foreclosure, mind you. So it was just a frickin' dump. We got the keys the day we buried my father-in-law, the day of his funeral. And so
so you were also mourning the loss of this home that you, oh my God.
So, and then I just remember literally people took all of our stuff because we didn't close escrows on time, right? So all my stuff was in a bunch of U-Hauls or whatever, moving vans at my neighbor's house for over a week. But that week we stayed with my mother-in-law when she needed us there. So that's the universe
Mhm.
at work, right? And so they're in their tuxes, take them off and help us, move in at the time. But yeah, I went back to work and I'd burnt all my vacation, all my PTO, taking care of funerals and shit, right? And so when I went back and he said, literally like in the same breath, it was like, did you get the flowers at the funeral? How the hell are you going to make up for this loss with San Diego fire or something like that? And I just remember saying, I'm not.
Right.
I'm actually not. I'm done. I'll take care of my clients. I'm not going to leave tomorrow, but I can't do this anymore. And so then I quit and I started crying and didn't stop crying for probably a week or two.
Oh,
And I went up and for me, my battle is more with anxiety than depression, but they're very
mhm.
interrelated, right? And that started in early childhood. But I didn't know that's what it was. So I have a nervous system dysfunction where I
Mhm.
lose consciousness, pass out, and seize. And so at the
Mm.
time, it was diagnosed as grand mal seizures when I was 2 years old.
Oh
So
my goodness.
on and off medication my whole life, right? Until my 30s. And then long story, but I manage it through nutrition, my breath.
Mhm.
And I was re-diagnosed at 42 as having this extreme neurocardiogenic syncope, which is a nervous system dysfunction. But so as a kid, I say that because as a kid, my anxiety came from I never knew when an episode was going to happen.
Exactly.
So and as a child, you don't know how to communicate that, right? I just knew the sensation I'd feel. Next thing you know, I'd be in a doctor's office, my mom would be crying, whatever it is, right? And so I literally learned through that to live in fight or flight. I was always on high alert. I was hyper vigilant,
Mhm.
that always my whole life. And it just became a full-fledged fear-based lifestyle. Um, and so anyway, getting back to that nervous breakdown was more of, I think now in hindsight, a spiritual breakthrough because it started me on
Mhm.
my path of, I'm gonna try this meditation and I'm granted it took me a hell of a long time. I share some of that in the prior podcast episodes. My journey's been a
Mhm.
long one in terms of finding the style that works for me, finding that baseline,
Right.
finding the practices. So yeah, so I, went back to ended up going. That's when I started pouring wine. So that's actually how I got in the wine industry. I'd
Oh.
been off for 6 months. I wasn't ready to go back quite to the software world, but I
No. Who is?
right? I needed some sort of income and I needed to get myself back in the world. And so we were having a glass of wine celebrating the birthday of my niece, who was one of the people that passed on her birthday. My sister and my other niece were celebrating her life and having a glass of wine. I just thought, I've always wanted to pour in a tasting room in my retirement.
Mhm.
Maybe there's one around here. And then here to find out there's this beautiful boutique winery 10 minutes from my home that
Oh
had
my goodness.
just opened a tasting room, didn't even know about it. I went up there and tasted. Long story short, the lady's like, get me a resume today. We're in the process of hiring someone right now with you. And I'm like, okay, but my resume has nothing to do with wine tasting.
That's
And then
right.
and then the synchronicities when I went in for the interview with the owner, I walked in and I'm like, why am I going into Agrivice, which was the software company that had actually taken some of my staff over to their company. Like they left me to go work for them. And now I'm walking through these doors and here it's the owner of this winery. So it's so funny. So it's been full circle, but that pulled me out of being up there in the property, doing
Right.
something I was passionate about. It helped bring me back to me. And
Right.
so that's why, because people will say, well, why are you still there after I've been there 10 years? It'll be this fall. And never a lot. It was always like a day here, a day there, a couple times a week. But
Mhm.
it's just, there's something about that experience that I remembered. In fact, oh my God, you'll love this. Uh, okay, I'm good till 11. So look at this. It's like this really old, it's
Oh,
actually
I think I may have seen that.
it's Automobile Club of Southern California.
Oh my
And
God.
a California winery tours. And it's all these, it's got my dad's circles and notes. It's all in Napa. So in Ingle Nook and his, so it's got his
Hazelnut,
writing
that's a
in
good
there.
one.
But I remember this was the experience where anybody who would come out and visit us from Minnesota, we did San Francisco, we did Yosemite,
Exactly.
we did Napa. And so as a child, I mean, I was probably, ages, I don't know, maybe 10 to, adolescence, 10 through adolescence when we were before drinking age when we would do this. Granted, I'd already tried wine from my grandma when I was like 8 years old because she would serve it to me watered down. Anyway, the Christian Brothers. Anyway, so I found my mom found this recently and she's going through stuff and she's like, oh, look at this old book. I'm like, oh my God. So it's on my
I need that.
yeah. But the experience that people would have, the joy in the wine tasting experience.
It's like, how do I get there with the joy?
Right. And so that
Yeah.
was ingrained in me. And then, for a long time, I self-medicated my anxiety with wine. That's why I don't drink much Chardonnay now. I mean, I do like Chardonnay, but I don't like the standard California tang cheap Chardonnay. And that's why Chardonnay has a bad rap now because people are drinking shit.
Well, and it gives you headaches and you're just like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
miserable the next day. And it's like, as soon as I taste it, I'm like,
yeah, it's poor quality. I'm so glad that you said, like take the house, because that's how I am. I'm like, if I can have one glass of wine, which is my tolerance too, it's going to be a good one. So I will send the wine back. I will say that's been open too long. I'll be that annoying person, but in a compassionate, nice way, because
that's
life's too short to drink shitty wine.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And shitty food and everything else.
Yeah. So anyway, that got me back into the world again. I ended up from there also getting my real estate license because I always thought I'd like to try that. And then I got called by a former employer saying, hey, we got this project, this tech. You probably have heard of Bitwise. I don't know.
Probably not. I don't.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is because they were in national news because it's a big disaster. They just, it's just really, really gnarly. Anyway, at that time, they were leasing out this building and they needed help leasing the building. I had my license. So I went, I would negotiate leases between the tech companies and the landlord. And then the tech companies would be like, wait, you have a software background? So then I got talked into going back in the software world. And I was there until 2020. And there was a few, I worked for a couple startups. And so I'd be laid off or at one point fired. And then I was like, okay, this is a sign. So then I did my yoga teacher training. So I started to do with each change, I would do another progression in my education and my path. And then in 2020, right after the pandemic landed in the US, the company I was working for was based out of New Zealand. Talk about good Sauv Blanc, right? They pulled out of the US. And so I had to lay off my team and then I was laid off.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was at that crossroads and I'm like, if not now, when? Because
Exactly.
everybody was falling apart, even in my individual family. We would be on Zoom meetings and my 4 siblings, all who work for, big, have huge pensions, Fortune 500s, whatever. They're surviving till they retire. That mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. My brother's in it. Most of I have 4 brothers and sisters in it. Yeah. They're all there.
Yeah. So they would be just lamenting over, I think I'm going to get laid off. I think it's coming. I'm next, this whole time. And I was going through the process and had been through it. And I was just
It's
chill.
not the end of the world. Yeah.
I was chill as a cucumber. And so everybody would always ask me, like, how are you handling this so well? And it hit me. I'm like, I've done so much work to take my power back from my anxiety prior to COVID coming that I had these daily practices, like your daily Whimsy, right? I had all these daily practices to the point where when it came, I was just like, okay, what's the next thing? I was never.
And now this is happening.
Exactly. Like, okay, and now this is happening. So
how do I react? How do I think about this?
Totally. Yeah. So I just started doing the further certifications and I went down, I'd done quite a few and went down the path did 2 years of study with Chopra and did the coaching certification there. And it's been just a ride since. So it's just, feel like I'm really just starting to hit momentum in my business where it's actually going to lift into its fullest potential right now. And I think the funny thing is, you know what it is, Cathy? I finally really embraced the part that I was resistant to, which is for me the correlation of wine and well-being. So
Mhm.
a little over a year ago, I was already had my take fives, was doing, this different work, but I just kept getting pulled. I was doing wine and well-being workshops up at the winery. That's basically, I would call them chakras and Chardonnay, and I would teach them about the
Mhm.
chakras, and then I would take them through this mindful tasting experience that I didn't call that at the time, but I would take them
Yeah.
the way I like to experience it. And I got such good feedback from that that
Mhm.
I was kept getting pulled to take this to a larger audience, but I was resistant because I felt like, well, how can I be well-being and how can I be wine? Both, right? Because if there's so much polarization in the wellness
Mhm.
world with this. And so I went on this retreat and I came out of that with such clarity, so many signs from the universe.
Mhm.
And on the way back from the retreat, it was in Terra Nea, which is like Malibu area. So
Mhm.
the drive back, like 4.5, 5 hour drive the entire way, after the prompting of someone there who's like, you really need to write a book. I'm like, I don't want to write a book. And she's like, well, just record your voice. Just start recording your voice as you talk about these things. So I used Rev.ai to just transcribe, right? I recorded me telling my story to myself, my journey with alcohol from the first sip I ever
Mhm.
took to how I used it to feel socially less awkward as a teen,
Mhm.
to how I learned that that's where the deal gets done, at the bar, not in the conference
Mhm.
room. And then self-medicating when I felt like I was a incapable mother and when people were dying around me, just
Mhm.
I had to go through my whole journey and then how it came now to this beautiful relationship where like this week, the episode I just released, I'm not drinking because I was inflamed from a car trip. So my body's telling me I don't need anything inflammatory, and alcohol's inflammatory. So um, but I can come to it through such amazing, mindful, wonderful relationship. And
Mhm.
so I really was like, my message needs to get out there because there's so many of us that are in the gray area. I wasn't a hardcore alcoholic. I wasn't
Mhm.
hiding vodka in my purse in a water bottle. And I use that example
Mhm.
because I have family members that do. I've got
Yeah.
them in the family. And so, but I was unconsciously numbing pain because it became a wired habit of go to the wine fridge, pour a glass. That's how you take the edge
Mhm.
off at night. So you get in this habit of
And you're
constant,
not even really experiencing it. You're
you're not
just like, I'm gonna
experiencing it.
that's how
That's
my mom's an alcoholic, and that's how she does it. We just get her box of wine for $4 at Trader Joe's, and
yeah.
we're like, "Fine, if
Yeah.
that's all you're doing, we're" but then we have to hide the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. My
They're like, "You
sister,
don't deserve this." Although, when she has a like, we'll have a glass, she'll be like, "This is very good." I'm
I
like, "You
know.
think?"
Oh my God. I love that you just said that. That's literally like my older sister's an alcoholic, and my brother's a recovering. So he's been through uh Hazeltine and a few
"Oh, you
different.
should go." Do you have 11 o'clock?
Oh shit. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Um,
I
all
could talk
right.
to you
I
all
get
day, but
too
anyway,
excited. Totally. So we will talk more and we will wine taste.
we will wine taste. Yes.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Love you, girl. Thanks. Bye.
Love you. Bye.